My name is Mad Skills, and you are now tuned into the Spark Something podcast. And right here, I want you guys to be the best version of yourself. I want you to live out the life that God is calling you to live out, because there'll never be another you. And no one else can do it the way that you can do it. Not with the flavor God has given you. So with that being said, welcome to the show. Let's go. So, for the last 3 months, I think it's officially 3 months. My birthday was in April. I turned 31 this year. It's April, May, June, July. We are in July. It's not July 19th yet, but July 19th will officially make it 3 months. And ever since my birthday, I have been in a very interesting transition. Normally I would say the word weird, but I've been feeling weird, but it's been an interesting transition through life and through my adult words. I'm going to say this. The adult words that I've been using is I'm becoming, transitioning. There's a couple more right now. Like my mind just honestly went blank. But I'm becoming is actually like the number one phase or phrase that I've been using. I'm adapting and I'm learning to cope. So those are the 4 words: transitioning, adapting, coping, and becoming. Those are my adult words that I've been using just from the beginning of this year, but more so since my birthday. I have been using the word becoming. I feel like my life is a run-on sentence right now. I feel like it's a run-on sentence, and somewhere down the line, like I'm going back to, or I'm not really going back. I'm putting a period here in April. Like I put a period. So that was the end of that. So now for the last 3 months, as life has been going, instead of it being a run-on sentence, I'm actually using like punctuation. I'm putting commas and periods and exclamation points and semicolons if needed to. I'm using these things, and in doing that, I'm feeling like I'm being more strategic with my life. And in being more strategic with my life, I'm learning that there are things that happen before now that I never really understood how to deal with. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, most of the time when I hit record on this podcast, I'm trying to be I'm not even going to use the word try. I'm being as vulnerable as I possibly can. I'm speaking to you about my now. I'm speaking to you about my life. I was talking to God earlier, and I was praying and I was crying, and this was earlier today, this morning actually. And I was just talking to God about just how hard life could be and how interesting this transition through life has been for the last couple months. And I started to like kind of tap my foot in a boom, boom, boom. Like I was just tapping. That was the pace of the tap. So I was lifting up, my heel and putting it back down. And that was kind of just the pace of the tap. And as I'm sitting there, after I've, poured my heart out to God, and I'm crying and sniffing and stuff, and I hear God say, "Do you feel that?" And I'm like, "Feel what?" And he's like, "The tap, the pace tapping of your foot. You feel that? And I'm like, yeah, it's my foot. I feel it. It's definitely my foot. And he's like, imagine that being your heartbeat. And then I thought about it. And I was like, okay. He's like, you still have purpose here. That's why you're still here. There's still purpose in your life. That's why you are still here. And anytime I feel like I'm going in circles, or anytime I feel like, in my acts of being strategic, or in my acts of being intentional and having to go back and apologize for certain things, or having to go back and kind of, check myself, or allow God to show me and him checking me, or I, realize that I may have done some things that I had to go back and apologize for, or I had to accept that that's no longer where I'm at, or I had to realize that I'm growing in certain areas and it's uncomfortable. Like I'm in an uncomfortable season right now. God is telling me that I still have purpose, even for those moments, those uncomfortable moments, those intentional moments. I have purpose for that. And I have purposely placed you in those moments, because what I have for you, you need to go through these things in order for you to get to where I'm calling you to. We get so consumed with the outside, the outer appearance, what we look like to people, how we look in the mirror. There are people that are walking this earth, and on the outside, they look gorgeous. They are beautiful. And on the inside, they're dying. They're rotting. They're tired. They feel defeated. They're depressed. And nobody will ever know. In this transitional process, and when I say that, I got some, I Googled some stuff, and I want to throw it on in here for you guys. So I Googled the definition of the word transition, and it is the process or period of changing from one state or condition to another. It's undergo or cause to undergo a process or period of transition. I hate when they use that's the verb definition, and they put the word in the definition to where it's like, okay, got you. But you're going through this change, and I've said this in previous episodes, that change is inevitable. Change is bound to happen. And if you're not changing and you're trying to remain the same and things are changing around you, that gets uncomfortable. That gets extremely uncomfortable. And we don't always know what it is that we need sometimes until we are literally smack dab right in front of the thing that's gonna rough us up, to change us. I'm gonna be, and I always say this, I'm gonna be transparent. Relationships for me are always the turning point. I pour so much out into my relationships, and I pour out a lot of the times the things that I needed, or the things that I need. And I had this expectation that I would receive it from people, but they're not me. And they don't love the way that I do. And they probably will never be able to fill some of my voids. And that's a lot of pressure to place on someone. Whether it's a child, that's a whole nother episode. Placing those expectations on children. Whether it's a spouse. Listen, I got married in February, and I have had to apologize probably every 2 weeks since February. And I've never had to apologize for so much in my life. But I agreed to do this. And it has brought so much out of me. And it is so uncomfortable sometimes. Marriage is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I'm not going to front with y'all. Anybody that is out there that is looking to get married, wanting to get married, engaged to get married, it's beautiful. But it's work. And it's a lot of it. And it's a lot of internal work first. But it's work. You don't have to take any advice I've ever given. All of this is unsolicited. But I'm going to tell you this. It's work. So if you are willing to put in the work, and it's not work that you can fully be prepared for, but it's work. I'm learning to adapt. I'm learning to transition into this thing. I'm already in it, but I'm learning to transition through it. Relationships with friends or friendships that you may have, it's work. Relationships in general is work. So for the month of July, I have been very limited on my communication. I've been spending more time with God, and wow, I almost didn't do this episode. I'm gonna be keeping a buck with you. I've been spending more time with God in the month of July, to where I'm not on social media, and I haven't really been picking up the phone for really anybody. I've just been working. I've been coming home. I've been learning how to be a wife to my husband, and trying to, I'm not even going to say try. I've been spending more time with God, and I've been praying more. I have been crying more. I have been seeing myself more. I have been understanding that there's a lot of things that I need to change and some things that I need to focus on. God has been exposing me and exposing things to me, and I have been getting hit left and right. And it is not an easy thing to do, to get hit and stay still. It's not an easy thing to do, to get hit and not try to defend yourself, because we're always so eager to try to defend ourselves, especially when, we don't look that great. Like, I was rushing. That's why, but I could get myself together. And it's like, we think that when we come to God, like, we have to have all of this stuff together. God's not looking for that. If anything, come to Him exactly how you are. Allow Him to help you through this process. Allow Him to show you things and go through the experience with Him. But don't ever think that you have to have it all together. With people, they may think that you have to have it all together. Social media may think that you have to have it all together. And I believe in the month of July that I've been the most vulnerable that I've ever been in my life. And actually, since my birthday, for the last 3 months, I have been the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life. And I've been intentional about who I talk to and how I speak and what I say and what I don't say. And I'm transitioning, guys. And I'm like in the parentheses of it. Like I'm right smack dab in the middle of it. And it's the most uncomfortable season of my life. But God is in it with me. Like, I don't feel completely alone, even though I have literally had to disconnect from everything. I don't feel like I'm by myself. In my weakest moments, I pray. I talk to God. He listens. He talks back. And I feel whole about it. So this transition hasn't been the easiest. And I'm not going to say, this transition, like I'm done. Like I'm right in the middle of it, like I said. And a lot of people, we don't always talk about the middle. We either talk about how we started, we like brush over the middle, and then we talk about how it ends, or other people talk about how it ended. But this process, I don't want to brush over, because I've rushed through so many things in my life, and that's why it was a run-on sentence from the beginning. But this, I'm not rushing through. I'm actually being intentional by putting periods where they're supposed to go, putting exclamation points where they're supposed to go, capitalizing, lowercasing things, paragraphs, just regular sentences. I'm being more intentional about how I walk this thing out, because time is limited, guys. Like, our time on this earth is so limited. I Googled this. What is the meaning of transition through life? And the first thing that pops up is experiencing a change. When we talk about life's transitions, we're referring to an act of experiencing change. Change comes in all forms. It can be the milestone of age or moving into a new environment. You may find yourself stepping in and out of a relationship, or perhaps becoming something new, like a parent. Now, I have godchildren. I don't have any kids of my own. Even that's a transition. Stepping into something new. I've never been 31 before. This podcast is new territory for me. And having to be intentional even about weekly episodes, be intentional about, regardless of what's going on in life, all the distractions that I've experienced. Like, it's difficult to try to really go against the grain. Like, I have a full week that I'm coming back to. I've never been this consistent or focused on much of anything that I've started to where I'm doing this weekly. But going through life, all of the distractions that come, all of the things that I've done, work stuff, home stuff, friendship stuff, family stuff, and still having to come back here and in the middle of the changes that are happening in my life, to where a lot of people, they start things and they're like, okay, I've accomplished something. I'm in the middle of trying. Let me stop using the word try. I'm in the middle of accomplishing something. And it's an interesting process. It's an interesting process. So this is my something new. My milestones. I never really considered that I'd even make it to see 31, that I'd make it to see my 30s. So I didn't really plan for this far out. But here we are. And I'm allowing God to lead me throughout the rest of my journey through life. And I'm making my own plans and mapping some stuff out along the way. But I'm just following the leader. I looked up some other stuff on how to cope through life and transitioning through life. How I have started coping is I'm spending more time with God. I'm praying a lot more. I'm listening a lot more. I'm trying to be intentional of not just listening to God, but listening to people. Taking inventory of how I spend my time. Taking inventory of what I do with my time and my life. And taking inventory of, if someone tells me that I've done something to offend them, to not necessarily be offended by it, but more so try to be more understanding of, okay, what could I have done better? Or how could this have been different? And that's just me taking inventory for me. I can't speak for everybody else. Some things you can save and some things you can't. So when you can't save these things, how do you even cope with those things that you have to let go of, those people that you have to let go of? I talk about letting go of people a lot, but I never really talk about how I'm adjusting with the memories. It's hard. It's hard. How I'm coping. My form of coping before wasn't really that great, but realizing that I want to wake up every day and I want to actually live my life and I want to experience life, I have to make hard decisions. Like, I have to choose every day to get up and decide that I want to live. And that's what I'm doing. And I don't know, I had an expectation that I would get to a certain point and I wouldn't have to work as hard. You stop working when you die. In this life, you can take a rest. You can take a break. I recommend you to take a break. I recommend you to get some rest. I don't recommend you to throw in the towel and give up. How have I been coping with not giving up? I've had to learn to accept that change is a normal part of life. Change is inevitable. Like I said before, change is going to happen because change is a part of life. Change is life. Like, there's no way that you're going to be able to live life and nothing changes. It's going to happen. Whether it's the time, the day, the sun rises, the sun sets, the moon comes out, the moon sets, it's going to happen. You're going to get older. People are going to get older. People are going to pass away. You're going to get to a certain point in your life. You may want something new out of life. Things are going to change. Life is going to happen. Life is life, in y'all. Like, real talk. It's going to happen. Change is inevitable. It's a part of life. Identify your values and life goals. When I read that, my first thought was to figure out my why. Figure out my why. Why am I starting something new? What is the purpose of wanting to go through this thing? What is the purpose of all of this? What is my why? My why had to be greater than my distractions as I transition through life. Like, my why has to outweigh my distractions, because if it doesn't, my distractions will overtake me. I want to live my life to the fullest. Why I started this. And as I was talking to you guys earlier about, the tapping of my foot, and God, referring it to a heartbeat for me. And I began to think about the younger version of myself. I needed someone to be who I am now. I needed someone to tell me some of the things that I say now. And I go back and I listen to some of my episodes and I can't believe it's me. But I needed me when I was younger. I need me now. I live my life trying to prove to people that I could do this. And I was unhappy, and these people had moved on with their life and they were out living it. And I was just going through life feeling like, they gotta know. Some of these people ended up passing away, and I'm fighting with I'm internally fighting because I ain't made it yet. And I'm still going for it, and they not here. So I'm angry and I'm upset. And this is my truth, yo. This is me being 100. This is me keeping it a buck. I'm angry, I'm upset. I need to prove to certain people that I can do this. And these people have passed away. And I'm still trying to live my life proving to people who are no longer here, they can no longer see me, prove to them that I'm not a failure. I was sinking, dying. That was where all of my drive was. Now, my outlook on life is me. I gotta prove to me all of the doubts that I had on myself. People, spoke some crazy stuff over me. People said some weird stuff to me that you probably shouldn't say to a child, to a teenager. The things that I needed to hear, they were always there. I always had that feeling that I needed to hear this from someone, and I didn't always hear it. But I knew what I needed. I just didn't know that I would be the one that I needed to hear it from. That's my why. When I was younger, my mom was one of my biggest cheerleaders, yo. And we still talking about transitioning through life, but I'm giving y'all just walk with me on this, because this might be a part 2, because I still got some things on this list that I need to talk about. But my mom was like one of my biggest cheerleaders. And I made a promise to my mom that I would make it to college, I would graduate from high school. My mom never saw me do any of those things. She passed away before I could even show her. And when my mom passed away, there were quite a few people that didn't think that I would make it to see high school graduation, college graduation. I didn't think so either. That sparkle in my eye was gone. I was trying to figure out life ever since I was 14 years old. Trying to make sense of it. Not knowing that I needed to shift my focus. Not knowing that I didn't believe in myself. I believed in the words that my mom spoke to me. She believed in me. And years went by. And I spent my entire life feeling like I needed to prove to people that I was actually somebody. Because I didn't believe that I was. But my mom told me I was. And I believed her. Until it got to a point to where all of those people that I was trying to prove that I was something and somebody for, they went on to live their life. Some of them have passed away. And I was still in this rat race, or in this circle of trying to prove that I was worth loving. And one day God had to come to me and take me on this transition. And that one day was 2020. Well, that's not even a day. But that one day, or that point in my life happened in 2020 when COVID started and everything came to the surface. And ever since then, he's been showing me. But I've been walking around trying to pretend like I didn't see it. This transition's rough. I've been walking around trying to still maneuver through life like I knew. I still gotta go. Like, I can't quit. I can't stop. I gotta keep moving. But moving through life and inside dying, on the outside looking like I had something together, looking like I knew kind of a little bit, just a little bit, but on the inside, nobody knowing. I was talented, gifted, but nobody saw me. And that was the crazy part. As many gifts and as many talents as I had, nobody ever pulled me aside. Transitioning through all of that, God blessing me with these things, blessing me with these gifts and these talents, and then eventually saying, let's deal with the heart. It's tough. Because everybody don't know the heart. But God knows. And He sees. And He's been knowing this whole time. And He's just now shutting everything down and saying, let's deal with the heart. So here I am transitioning through life and Him dealing with my heart. And it's tough. It is tough. Guys, that has been part 1 of transitioning through my journey. I thank you guys so much for lending me your ears one more time. Thank you guys for genuinely getting to the end of this episode, and I appreciate you for all the likes, the comments, the shares, for all of the support. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you for just rocking with me on this journey. I'm going to keep moving forward. I have to. For all of the people that have my actual phone number and you've been hitting me up even about the podcast and different episodes, God bless you guys. Thank you dearly. Part 2 is coming next week. I hope and pray that also blesses you guys. But this has been your girl, Mad Skills. This is another episode of the Spark Something podcast. And I hope this sparks some in your life. And I'm out. Peace, baby.